Today, my guest is James Bender,
Hi.
Mike Wood,
Hey.
and not present, not pictured, is Chris Woodruff.
He's off the screen.
So,
He's right over there.
and the three of you guys, Mike and James and the not present Chris, are part of an organization called NPlus1. But actually, this is not the first time each of you have been on this show, and each of you also have something else in common that you may not be aware of, is that I have worked with all three of you at three different companies at three different times in the past. Pretty well. 10 years ago, Mike and I worked together.
Yep.
Back in Cincinnati, and you and I at QSI, and Chris with me for a few months in Cincinnati.
You're blowing my mind.
It's pretty weird. It's spooky.
It's creepy.
And now here we are again at NPlus1.
It's like 7 degrees of daycare.
Ooh, I like that.
NPlus1. Let's talk about that. What is that? What is NPlus1?
Well, NPlus1 is it's a website, it's an organization. It's a little more than that. We kind of noticed that out in the development area, there was a lot of stuff aimed towards developers, front-end developers, back-end developers, database developers, a lot of resources for developers. There wasn't a lot for architects. And also there was kind of this perception of architects as they were just developers who eventually got to a point where they reached the top of their pay grade at their company and like, well, we need to give them a raise, make them an architect. Because that was just the next level in the band.
So you're saying it's a meaningsless word in some
It's a meaningless word. And I actually, in some technical circles, became almost like a bad word, like a pejorative.
Well, let's stop right there. What's your definition of architects?
Well, and Mike, I don't want to put words in Mike's mouth. Mike can certainly disagree with me on this. I think an architect's job is to help and support the development team in a number of ways. I think their job is to set the technical direction, create the technical vision. I also think their job is to work with the customers to determine their needs. And there's a big differentiation, in my opinion, between needs and wants. A child may want ice cream for dinner, it doesn't mean you're going to give it to them. Okay. So it's also being able to differentiate what they need and what they want and deliver systems to them that serve their needs, are stable and robust, and provide value.
Okay.
And to make that one of my favorite definitions of an architect, Joe Wortley, who is a man of few words, made the statement, an architect is someone who bridges the gap between IT, technology, and the business.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
But I think the perception is that architects are just guys, we're trolls who sit in these towers and you slide pizza under the door and we slide out these class diagrams and we're off in our ivory towers and we're not in with the developers. And I think in a lot of the technical communities, it's almost become like an insult to refer to someone as an architect. We've all heard the term, ooh, you're a non-coding architect. And part of the goal of this website is to show people, architect's not a bad word. Architects are still needed. Even on small systems, you're still dealing with some sort of architecture. Even if you don't think you are, when you change code somewhere, you're changing the architecture of that system. You're changing how that system behaves.
Yeah.
And so we kind of wanted to support the architects and kind of bring a little bit more understanding across the development community about the role of the architect.
In addition to that, we also want to make sure that people understand that architecture is a role, in my opinion. It's a role. It's not a title. It's not, you must have an architect. You could have a lead designer or even just and I don't want to use the term senior developer as a title, but someone that has more experience, per se. An experienced developer on a team who's making architecture decisions. Mm-hmm. Even if it's in the small,
okay,
you're making an architecture decision, and like many things in our industry, in software development, there's layers, right? And so you might have someone at the lowest end working on a small subset of the application making pattern decisions. What pattern am I going to use here? Or does this even need a pattern?
And that can be considered even architecture.
It's an architecture decision.
Okay.
Right? Now, in some situations, that may require some giant bureaucracy to make the decision. I hope not. But in the end, one of the other things that we've been talking about at NPlus1 when we have our events is all developers need to know something about architecture, if only so that they're thinking for themselves when they see, the specs come out from underneath the doorway and they look at it and they go, well, this isn't going to work, and here's why, mm-hmm. And be able to articulate why and understand the concepts of architecture.
Okay. So you started NPlus1 to help people who are architects that deal with architects, or what? Tell me, why did you start NPlus1?
Well, to be honest, it kind of got started. There was a lot of different discussion about architecture. I have to give a lot of props to Brian Prince, who kind of walked around and talked to people. He was architect evangelist for Microsoft.
Brian Well.
And he talked about, where are the resources for architecture, right? And he was instrumental in getting all of us together to talk about it. And that's kind of why we started is, well, here's a resource for architects. But immediately, the question came up, like you asked, well, what is an architect?
Yeah.
And then we realized, well, our audience is very, very big.
Okay. By that definition that you gave earlier, definitely.
Yes.
And this isn't the first attempt to do something like this. A couple of years ago, Microsoft had tried to do something based more towards architects, and it never really got off the ground. I don't know. No one really knows why. Maybe it was because there are people out there who see Microsoft and they think, well, they're not really part of the community. So I think it's been tried before, so we kind of had a little bit of a hill to go up when we knew that. But I think we've done pretty good as far as getting it up and really getting the message out.
What I'm hearing is your mission is to help architects.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
Any way you can.
Mm-hmm.
And it's community based. So we're looking for people who know a lot about architecture to share their vision. We're looking for people who want to learn about architecture to come to the site to tell us what they're looking for, what kind of events they'd like to see.
Okay.
And we're not by any means the only people out there. There's a lot of people out there doing this. InfoQ has a lot of good information. There are a series of events out there called art cafes that are kind of getting started in a couple of places.
It's the Architecture Journal.
Architecture Journal. So we're just trying to add to the resources. And that's why on our site we have first-party content plus, with the help of several of the people contributing what we call tidbits, so just little links to say, hey, this is a good resource to go out and check out, or here's a good article that might make you think about a few things in your architecture. And Mike Levy out of Cincinnati has been doing a great job helping us get those. And he combs through, I don't know how he does it, he combs through a ton of blog entries, reads a lot of articles, reads a lot of books, and he combs through that and says, I think these are good resources for people that are interested in architecture. Of course, he has a passion for it, so.
Yeah, I know Mike as well. Real passionate guy. So what else are you doing? You've got tidbits. You said first-party content, meaning original content that's contributed to the site. What form does that take?
Basically, articles written by members of the community. I know, Dave, you've written several.
Yeah, I didn't answer the question before I asked it.
That's okay. But really, we try to find members of the architecture community who we feel have something to say or a value to add, and we get them to just write on a topic. And we're not looking for War and Peace, something a few hundred words. On a variety of topics. We have Java people, we have Ruby people, we have several .NET people. But we really try to, really try to make the content something that cuts across technology, cuts across platforms.
Oh, interesting.
So
You guys
we
are
get
both
that-
.NET guys, but the
Right.
site itself, NPlus1 is not a .NET organization.
No, we really try to stay platform agnostic as much as possible.
But that, in so much that we're not taking a stance on any one particular platform. In architecture, a lot of architecture topics span platforms, right? Some have less concern than it's others. Some of our events have been on solid development and solid principles, some of which don't apply to some languages but do apply more to others.
Okay.
But at the same time, we're hoping that a lot of our architecture discussions and information is useful to everybody. Even if it doesn't fit your particular niche, just like the recommendation that people say, well, you should go out and learn another language or learn another bit of technology so that you can apply that knowledge to your current problem domain, right?
Right.
So it's the same kind of thing.
So first-party content, the tidbits that Mike Levy's putting together. What else could do?
Events.
What kind of events?
Well, they've been half-day events. We're calling them art councils. And basically what they're going to be is they're held in various cities. We've done 4 so far? 5 so far.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of after a while.
I've been to one.
You've been to one, you've spoken to one.
That was the one I listened to.
We appreciate that. And the idea is it's a half-day presentation on kind of, we generally have a theme that we try to change up. Currently, we've done cloud in the past, we've done advanced object-oriented approaches in the past. We're starting to do more of the solid principles and move forward. And we'll do that for a few cities, and then we'll kind of change the theme up, just kind of keep us fresh too. I mean, you can't give the same presentation 30 times and have it, the 30th time isn't as good as the first. You lose passion, you lose interest, and there's new things always happening.
Right.
And on top of that, it's not just us doing the presenting.
Right.
You presented for us. We try to target, this is a community-run site and organization, and we are a nonprofit in the state of Michigan, right? Of course, I'm in Kentucky, and James is in Ohio,
States.
but Woody is managing Woody over there is managing all the nonprofit stuff for us.
Woody lost a bet, so he's our treasurer.
Yes. He also lost another bet, that's why he's sitting in the corner.
Yeah.
But
Woody's been on my show more than he's been on his own show.
I thought this was his show.
As well. I think he
I
sees me more than he sees Keith.
But we have, it's a community organization, and so because of that, when we go out to these other cities, we reach out to that community and say, who would like to speak in that community? Who's a good speaker? Here's the message we're trying to get across. We have content that you can present. If you want to do your own, as long as it is the message of solid principles or something. And we're not dictating you must teach this, this, and this. We want to get out information about the solid principles or dependency injection in particular, right?
Right.
Who can talk about that? And then we work with people on the ground to find a venue and catering and whatnot. So. And I think one of our goals for our events is to never have pizza.
Yes, community guys.
This is very important.
Well, you know this too. Community guys out there, if you're any sort of community evangelist, influencer, user group, you eat pizza at least 4 times a week.
Brian
And,
Prince says he eats pizza for a living.
There's a lot of truth to that, and I have actually, there's in my house, generally speaking, there's a ban on pizza.
Yeah.
I
I go
just-
to a lot of user groups, and so I end up eating a lot of pizza.
You get to the point you're just like, I can't eat another piece of pizza.
You guys had a Qdoba bar that I spoke at. It was really nice.
We've had a Qdoba bar. We've had
The barbecue.
the barbecue.
Barbecue is my
down
favorite so
all
far.
that. I didn't partake of that, but that was
Oh,
down in Nashville.
that
That
was
was
nice.
really good. Chicken nicks.
Chicken nicks, and we had the pasta.
We had the pasta bar from a gentleman, Busy Bistro in Cincinnati. They did a really good job. So that was a made-to-order pasta bar.
And so I guess what we're really saying is, even if you're not into the solid principles, come for the food.
It's really good.
It's really
not
good.
I'm
pizza.
an architect, didn't like
But
the pasta bar.
Well,
That's right.
we've gotten a lot of feedback, really good events and good speakers, and we love that it wasn't pizza. So
Yeah.
we're taking that feedback
or
in,
sandwiches.
or sandwiches,
Yes.
and box meals. We're trying not to do that.
You have an event coming up?
We have a couple.
Yes, one particular we know is scheduled for the March timeframe. It'll be in Indianapolis.
Okay.
We are going to be concentrating again on the solid principles. Our last set of content was on dependency injection and some patterns, software patterns. So this time we're actually going to focus mainly on each one of the individual solid principles. In the past, we have done a morning session that's kind of an intro to object-oriented programming. We're probably going to keep that up. It may not be an intro to object-oriented programming. It may be a primer for the rest of the material.
I see.
So if someone is not familiar with anything at all,
Yep.
any object-oriented principles at all, they can come to that, get a little bit of primer, or if they just want a refresher, or if they're trying to find a way out of the office earlier for an event in the afternoon.
Not that we've done that.
Yeah, because no one. Because we have the events, we provide lunch, and then after lunch we have the events, or the remaining part of the.
So the primer part would be before lunch, it'd be optional.
It's
Yeah.
completely optional if people want to register for that. And that makes a good dividing point, if you want to come early and stay with that, or you just show up, eat lunch, and sit in the rest of the sessions. And we generally have 2 sessions, but it runs for about 3.5, 4 hours. And we do that, the sessions aren't all that long, but we have built in a lot of time for open discussion about the individual topics.
How's that done? Are people actively getting involved with the discussion, or do you have to kind of draw it out of them?
Usually when you start, you have to draw them out. But once you get them going, then they'll go. I mean, it's like any large group. Everybody's afraid to be the first one to speak. But once the ice has been broken, the conversation's been really great.
Okay. You said you have 2 coming up, Indianapolis and...
Philadelphia, that'll be in April and sometime, at some point. Steve Andrews is helping us put that one on.
And we have the other one planned for, I think, around April, May. We may
Yes.
be targeting the same day, 2 events on the same day, one of which being in Pennsylvania
Right.
and one of which being in Memphis. So
Definitely
the other
that's a
two
no.
are in the preliminary stages,
Mhm.
but whereas the Indianapolis, we already have the room booked and
Is it downtown?
It'll be at the Microsoft office in Indy.
I don't know what it is, but folks know you well.
Find it on Bing Maps.
It is.
Yeah.
And what, so, tidbits, first party content, events, anything else?
Well, this year at Code Mash, we were able to host and sponsor Hank Jansen from Microsoft, who's very big in their open source development there at Microsoft. I know that sounds a little different. I think his comment tonight was, usually you don't hear open source and Microsoft in the same sentence without an expletive somewhere in there. But we were able to sponsor him to come out. We were a silver sponsor for Code Mash. And what we did was sponsor Hank to come out and give his keynote. And then we had a dinner tonight for people interested in open source in Microsoft and how they are moving forward or how they're approaching open source. And people got to ask Hank questions.
That was very well received. It was a great discussion. What's that sounds like you're spending some money, and you got these fabulous shirts that you're wearing. You're bringing in speakers from he's from Redmond. Is that right?
We brought Hank in from
Hank in from
Yep.
Redmond. So how's that funded? Who's footing the bill for all this?
Well, our major sponsor right now, the one that's gotten us off the ground and given us money, is Microsoft.
Okay.
And we have also reached out to multiple other sponsors, and we're actively looking for sponsors right now. Again, even though Microsoft got us going, we have an advisor Brian Prince is one of our advisors, but never once has anybody ever said, you need to do this, you need to talk about
They haven't
this.
tried to influence the content.
Absolutely
Not at all.
not. And in fact, it's more along the lines of, can you guys get more platform agnostic, right? I mean, and that's one of the reasons why we liked the idea of sponsoring Hank to come out.
You're looking for sponsors. I have literally dozens of people watching this show right now.
Awesome.
Maybe one of them could be a potential sponsor.
Yeah.
How would they do that?
They can contact us directly through the website,
Okay.
or if they want to send us an email, it's admin@nplus1.org.
Okay.
If they go to the website, just nplus1.org, and we have a contact link, and they can get in touch with us that way. And we have, what we're going to be setting up for next year, or for this year, is 2 levels of sponsorship. There's a web sponsorship where they're on the logo on our website, and they get their name out there through that mechanism. And then we have a Web Plus events. So if a sponsor chooses to do the Web Plus events, then their name and logo are at all of our events, which we currently have 4 planned for the year. We've already done one in Chicago.
Okay. And I think actually it'd be more of the people listening to this will be interested in contributing, maybe as contributing articles, or maybe being a speaker, or I don't know, anything.
That's
Well,
awesome.
we're always looking for articles. You can email an article to us at articles@nplus1.org. The only request I have is please make it in something that's editable, preferably a Word document, not a PDF, because we try to provide feedback. And for somebody who's getting into technical writing, this is a great avenue for them, because we'll help you out, we'll help you kind of shore up your article and make it look great and get you some experience doing it. And we'll work with new authors as well.
Yeah, and I can attest to this. Mike is like my #1 blog reviewer. So I'm going to start sending all my technical articles to Mike, because as I learn things, I put them on my blog, and he reads it. I think he's the only one that reads it, but and points out the mistakes before anybody else catches them. So, anything else?
The only thing I would say is, if you don't have N+1 on your feed list, or if you don't visit N+1, at least come out, take a look at it, see if there's anything of interest there to you. If there's not, and you think that you have something that we should be focusing on because it's architecture based, contact us. Let us know.
Please let us know.
Do you have future plans to change the direction of it all, or expand beyond the speaking, the tidbits, the first party content? That's quite a bit. But is there?
Well, we've talked about Woody in particular.
Yeah.
He's talked a little bit about doing some screencasts, so especially some of the content we've already provided at our events, going back through, recording those, and getting them posted online so that people can watch those and get that content.
So there's some of the content you delivered already is up and on your site. People can download it.
Yes.
Can they use that content?
They can feel free to use it. What we ask is that the material is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution, non-commercial. Right?
And that
So
means what?
pretty much Creative Commons, you can use it. Attribution, you must say where it came from, NPlus1.
Uh-huh.
And then the non-commercial means you can't charge for it. So we're putting this content together with sometimes some input from speakers such as yourself.
Uh-huh.
And that's a lot of work.
Yep.
And we're putting it on for free, so we would ask that people not like go out, grab it, and then charge people to come in.
Charge admission or
Yeah.
sell
Yeah.
copies of it?
No selling
Including
copies,
the book
but
or
No,
whatever?
if they want to take it and modify it or use it as a base for part of their own discussions about software architecture.
So this would be great for
That's
a
a lot,
user
so-
group that wanted to do a presentation and rather than bringing in a speaker with their own topic, just delivering your content.
Or even a speaker who's wanting to get started, an experienced speaker or an inexperienced speaker, but someone who's experienced with some of this, or they want to learn a little bit more about
There's
architecture or
a
DI
starting
or
point.
something like that, and they want to present, but they're not sure about making their own content. They can go out and grab ours and build on that.
Interesting. Okay. Guys, thanks a lot. I really appreciate your time,
Thank you, David.
and it's good to see you guys here at Code Match.
Yeah.
Thanks.
If you're not involved with community, you should be, especially in user groups and things like that. Community teaches you technology amongst friends. So there are a lot of people out there that are like you that are interested in the same thing. Find those communities and learn about technology with friends.